Hello everybody, it's dark in here. So here's the deal guys, it's exactly 5:59 a.m. right now. And no, I didn't wake up early, I just haven't gone to sleep yet. I'm nocturnal, this is normal. I've been really busy and this is literally the only time I've had available to vlog. So it was either dark vlog or no vlog. Anywho, today I'm addressing one of your most popular questions, and that is, how the hell do I beef up the word count on my novel? In other words, this video is for all you underwriters out there. Most writers tend to fit into one of two categories: overwriters and underwriters. Overwriters are people who get really detailed and wordy on their first draft. Then when they move on to the second draft, they gotta focus on trimming that shit down. Underwriters are people with the exact opposite behavior. Their first draft is completely bare bones, and then when they move on to the second draft, they gotta work on adding more content. For overwriters, writing the first draft tends to be a slow process. But the revision and editing phases are a lot easier for overwriters than underwriters because their main function is to hit the delete button. Delete, delete, simple, not hard. On the flip side, underwriters tend to finish their first draft really quickly, but the second draft and the third draft and the editing phase take a really long time. You gotta create entirely new content, and that is time consuming. So to all you underwriters out there, I'm here to give you some tips on adding meaningful content to your bare bones manuscript. I myself am not an underwriter, but back when I used to critique manuscripts, I read a lot of stories written by underwriters. So all of what I'm about to recommend is based on the countless underwritten manuscripts I've read and what they were typically lacking. But before I get into these tips, as an underwriter, you absolutely have to stop and ask yourself, do I even need to lengthen my novel? Not all stories require 100,000 words. It's very possible that your story isn't a novel. Maybe it's a novella. Maybe it's a short story. Don't feel like you have to beef it up just to meet a page requirement that maybe doesn't fit your story. Now, if you look through your manuscript and decide, no really, it's gotta be longer, I'm going to ask that you please resist the urge to add filler content. Filler content are scenes that writers throw into their stories for no reason whatsoever. They don't benefit the plot, they don't benefit any of the subplots, they're just kinda there. Don't do that. No one wants to read that shit. But you can do any of the 5 things I'm about to list. Number 1, show, don't tell. You may have heard this one once or twice, or a million fucking times. But it's usually better to show the reader what's going on as opposed to telling them what's going on. Showing means adding specific detail to a scene that has sort of a transporting quality. You make your reader feel like they're there in the moment with the characters. Instead of just saying that the story takes place during the summer, you describe the burning rays of the sun beating down on your character's back. Instead of just saying that your character's angry, you describe how they're clenching their jaw and they're balling their hands into white-knuckled fists. These sort of descriptions not only add bulk to your writing, but it'll also enhance the reader's experience. You want the reader to feel physically and emotionally connected to your writing, and showing, as opposed to telling, is the way to do it, while also increasing your word count. Number 2, set the scene. One of the biggest problems I noticed when critiquing underwritten manuscripts was that I never knew where the characters were. In my mind, I'm seeing character A and character B, and they're just floating in space. Set the scene. Let your readers know where your characters are and what they're doing. Now, I know a lot of people hate setting the scene. I hate setting the scene. But you don't have to describe every single leaf on every single tree. If your characters are in a castle, you can describe the overall architecture, the artwork, the ambiance. You don't gotta list the square footage. Just adding these basic descriptions will not only help the reader visualize the moment, it'll also add pages to that skimpy manuscript of yours. And while you're at it, check to see if you're lacking other descriptions, like physical descriptions. Remember, the reader isn't in your brain. You may be able to visualize the setting and the characters, but that's because you created them. Go through your manuscript with a critical eye and look for scenes that could possibly use a bit more description, because the audience is reading your book, not your mind. Number 3, attach bodies to voices. Sometimes underwriters go to write dialogue, and that's it. They just write dialogue. Hi, he said. How are you? She said. Communication is so much more than words coming out of your mouth. Communication is body language, eye contact, tone of voice. All of these things matter at some point in a conversation. If you write a hefty stream of dialogue and all you do is include dialogue tags like he said and she said, it's gonna read like this. What a lovely home. Thanks, I wasn't expecting guests. I couldn't tell. This place is absolutely charming. That was boring. and weird. It all sounds like empty words, like there aren't actual people attached to the voices. But if you include body language or mannerisms, even the simplest conversations suddenly have a lot more meaning. What a lovely home. Thanks! I wasn't expecting guests. I couldn't tell. This place is absolutely charming. By adding a few facial expressions and hand gestures, the conversation went from basic and boring to awkward and bitchy. Now, I'm not saying you need to include mannerism and tone of voice for every single piece of dialogue, but mention it when it's relevant. This is gonna make your dialogue a lot more interesting, and you guessed it, up your word count. Number 4, subplots. Most really long stories have a lot of shit going on, so if your book is on the skimpy side, chances are you're lacking in the subplot category. Check your outline to see if subplots work into the equation, and if you already have subplots, check to make sure they're well developed. Just because it's not your primary plot doesn't mean you can neglect it. If you've got a romantic subplot, check to make sure it's not an insta-romance, because a lot of readers hate that shit. Give your subplots depth and weight, because a half-baked subplot is only going to take away from your audience's overall reading experience. How many people have read a book and said, I would have loved it if the romantic subplot wasn't so rushed, or I would have liked it, but the subplot between the two best friends was just left hanging? Develop your subplots. It'll make your readers happy, and it'll make your book longer. And number 5, deepen your plot. I've read a lot of manuscripts that essentially felt unfinished. You meet the main character, she's given a bad guy to defeat, she defeats him, the end. That's it. What about all the stuff in the middle, the build-up, the rising action, the breaking point? You can't just start with point A and then automatically jump to point Z. There's a lot of other letters in the middle. If you're an underwriter, take a look at your manuscript and ask yourself, does your plot progress too quickly? Was the protagonist's goal way too easy to achieve? It's possible that you missed a lot of basic structural events. And if that's the case, you probably gotta go back to the drawing board and educate yourself on plotting and structure. This may lead to a bunch of rewrites, but rewriting an unfinished novel is a lot better than releasing an unfinished novel. And did I mention it'll add bulk to your novel? Because that's literally the entire point of this video. Anywho, those are my tips for beefing up your manuscript that I delivered to you while I watched the sunrise. I would say it was a beautiful moment, but this is a pretty common occurrence for me. If you're an underwriter, these 5 tips can help take your manuscript from this big to this big. Alright. But please, before you make any changes, double check to see if your book even needs to be longer. Size doesn't matter, okay? It's what you do with your story that counts. With that said, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I post new videos on Wednesdays. Eve the Awakening is still available in ebook and paperback on Amazon right now. You can also order a signed copy. All the links are listed below. And if you have any questions or if there's something you'd like me to talk about in my next video, be sure to tweet me at Jenna Moreci. Bye! Whoa, a bird! Come back. Be my friend.